Welcome to the Explainer. All right, let's get right into it. We all know artificial intelligence is a massive deal, a truly revolutionary force. But as it takes off like a rocket, it's not taking everyone with it. Today, we're breaking down how AI is carving out a new and, frankly, more dangerous global divide.
To get a sense of the sheer scale of what we're talking about, just look at this number. The United Nations projects the AI market will be worth a mind-boggling $4.8 trillion in less than a decade. We're not talking about a niche tech trend. This is a global economic earthquake.
And that's not an exaggeration. This really is the tech revolution of our time. AI is set to completely reshape our world, affecting everything from how we diagnose diseases and teach our kids to the way we get around town. It's a fundamental shift in how society works.
But here's the catch. As this revolution barrels forward, a huge problem is starting to emerge. It's creating a brand new type of inequality, one that's threatening to leave a huge chunk of the world in the dust before the race is even properly started.
And the UN has sounded a pretty loud alarm bell on this. They've warned that as many as 118 countries, most of them in the Global South, are, and I'm quoting here, not even in the starting blocks in the global AI race. Think about that. That's more than half the nations on Earth.
This brings us to a really important point. You've probably heard of the old digital divide, right? That was mostly about having a phone or getting an internet connection. Well, the new AI divide is so much deeper. It's about having access to the insane amounts of data, the super specialized skills, and the raw computing power you need to not just use AI, but to actually build and control it.
One expert, Atu Sakashi-Zazada, she breaks this down into three simple, crucial layers. First, there's just basic access to the internet. Easy enough. Second, can people actually afford to use it all the time? And third, and this is the real kicker, can they use AI in a meaningful way, for their own benefit, instead of just being passive consumers of someone else's tech?
And this graph, wow, it just lays that first hurdle bare. Look at that gap. In high-income countries, 93% of people are online. But in low-income countries, that number crashes down to just 27%. So many are starting this race from way, way behind.
And that massive disadvantage gets even worse when you follow the money. This is not some global collaborative effort. The power, the cash, the fuel for this revolution, it's incredibly concentrated. Just two countries, the United States and China, are pumping in 40% of all private investment in AI.
So, what does this actually mean? What are the real-world consequences for the countries that get left on the sidelines of this technological gold rush? Well, the risks are pretty serious. Okay, so if a country can't build its own AI, it's at risk of becoming a permanent consumer, totally dependent on foreign tech. Its jobs could get wiped out by automation that's controlled from halfway around the world, and maybe the scariest part, its people's data, which is the absolute lifeblood of AI, can be sucked up and sold off by others.
Professor Rameshan Vasan at UCLA puts this in a really powerful way. He compares this new mining of data to the old, historical extraction of minerals and labor. He's basically saying we're watching a new kind of digital colonialism unfold right before our eyes.
And that really forces us to ask this very uncomfortable question. Are we just creating a new world order where data is the hot new resource and countries without their own AI are the colonies that it's being mined from?
But in response to these very real risks, there's a powerful counter-idea that's gaining a lot of steam. It's called AI sovereignty.
So what is AI sovereignty? It sounds complex, but the idea at its core is pretty simple. It's the belief that a nation should be in control of its own digital destiny. That means owning its own infrastructure, protecting its own data, and building AI systems that actually reflect its own unique culture and values.
The goal here is to completely flip the script, to go from being just a consumer of foreign tech to being a creator. It's all about empowering local engineers, building AI that solves local problems, and making sure that those huge economic benefits actually stay inside the country.
Now, you might be wondering, how can smaller countries possibly compete with these tech giants? Well, one of the most promising answers is open source AI. These are models where the blueprints, the code, the data, it's all shared publicly, and that directly challenges the monopoly held by a handful of giant companies.
Think of open source as a launch pad. First, it just crushes the cost of getting started. Second, it gives everyone a transparent look at how these complicated models are actually put together. And maybe most important of all, it lets local innovators take the technology and tweak it for their own specific needs.
So when you step back, you see that this whole fight over the AI divide isn't just about technology.
It's actually presenting the entire world with a fundamental choice about what kind of future we want to build together.
We're basically at a fork in the road. Do we just accept a bipolar AI world, one that's dominated by the interests of two superpowers? Or do we fight for a multipolar one, a more democratic, decentralized system where lots of different regions can become their own centers of AI power and innovation?
And this choice isn't just about geopolitics. We have got to talk about the massive hidden costs. The physical hardware behind AI needs a staggering amount of energy, and it puts a huge strain on fresh water supplies for cooling all those data centers. These are environmental costs that often get pushed onto the very same nations in the global south we've been talking about.
And this isn't some fringe idea. The consensus among experts is that the path we're on now, dominated by a few, is both unfair and environmentally unsustainable. They're basically saying that we absolutely need a more multipolar, multilateral approach to drive AI forward responsibly.
And that leaves us with the last and maybe the most important question. The technology itself is just a tool. The choice is really up to us. Are we going to let AI become yet another thing that widens the gap between the powerful and everyone else? Or can we build a future where it's actually used to empower all of humanity?